What's up, guys? I'm here today with another great product review from Muscle, a product that I love. This product, Stemtropin. Now, I'm not sure if you've been following the news lately, but there's been a lot of talk about stem cell in the news. For example, the previous Mr. Olympia, Big Ramy, had just undergone the stem cell surgery for his back. And also the current Mr. Olympia, classic Mr. Olympia, Chris Bumstead, has also did stem cell surgery on his biceps. Now, if you have any problems, any issue in terms of recovery and everything like that, definitely want to give this product a try. It increases your natural stem cell production by up to 20% and boosts your natural GH levels to help you recover and help you making gains in the gym. So definitely try this product. You won't be disappointed.
Everybody, welcome to another awesome episode of Fact Attack, starring the one and only Fakhri Mubarak, the OG, IFBB Pro and contest prep extraordinaire, contest prep coach, I should say. So, Fak, wow, where do we begin? Arnold Classic, man, we just had an amazing Arnold Classic. I was there, you watched it. Give me your overall impressions first, and then I have a couple things I'd like your comments on.
I mean, I think the surprise of the show was Andrew, right? I mean, he came in peeled. I know there was other podcasters saying that he wasn't going to be able to get peeled from the Arnold to from the Olympia to the Arnold, right? But they must not took into account working with Chris Aceto now. you know, so we know Chris gets everybody in shape. Samson won. Samson he's a big dude, Ron.
I know.
He's a big dude.
300 pounds with a 31-inch waist.
I know he's a big guy, man. I mean, let's be honest. You know, if Samson puts it together moving forward with Milos, he's going to be really hard to beat. He's still young. He's in his early 30s. You know, and he has that. I don't know what weakness the man has. I mean, he has everything. He could be really he could win the Olympia for a few years.
I mean, that's what I wanted to ask you about him was, so he just beat everyone that he needs to beat at the Olympia, except for Brandon Curry, who I don't know what Brandon's up to, but he beat Nick Walker, who had beat Brandon. He beat Ramy. The only two guys that I think he needs to worry about, theoretically, unless Andrew Jack improves tremendously between now and then, or Nick, is Hadi and Derek. Do you think? And they're very, very different types of physiques. They're obviously much shorter, more compact. Samson's just something we haven't really seen before. It's like I think someone said if Lee Haney and Serge Dubray had a child or something, he's like a 290-pound Lee Haney with the same type of proportions. Just a beautiful physique. So do you think he's capable of doing it this year, or do you think it might take a year or two beyond this?
So I really never looked at the Olympia scorecard until a couple of days before the Arnold. It was very close between Hadi and Derek. I mean, it wasn't like pure fives and pure tens. Which if people don't understand, when you get first place, you get all first place votes, so it's a total of 5.
Right.
If you get all second place votes, it's a total of 10. So it was closer. I mean, a couple of judges had Derek first. That's because you were judging Derek and Hadi, who are pretty close in size. I think both of them are 5'6", right? 5'6", 5'6.5". Derek is 5'7", right?
No way.
No,
I'm gonna say they're both about. I want to say Derek's a little taller than Hadi. I'm gonna give Hadi 5'5", and I'll give Derek 5'6".
Okay, so I mean, you're dealing with guys that are my height, right? They're pretty short.
I'm not much taller.
It was very close. The physiques were a little different, right? Because you have Hadi, who had more density, more maturity, harder looking, and Derek had a better structure because of his waist, right? His waist and his lats and his shoulder width is what really became the wow factor at the Olympia. But now you put in a guy like Samson, and then Nick finished third, right? So now you put in a guy like Samson who has the size, the waist, the shoulder, taper. I mean, the guy blew my mind. I mean, he blew my mind at the Olympia, right? Because he did well. He did better than everybody expected. But now that he won the Arnold, he's a threat. I think he could win it this year.
Yeah, I mean, if I have one knock on him, it's just I'd like to see a little better condition.
Right.
Just I don't know if he's got thicker skin like some guys like Brandon Curry, Akim Williams. They just seem to have a thicker skin texture, and I don't think it's like they're not. Obviously, they're super lean. They're getting all the body fat off. I just don't see. There's a certain look that you get when you have thinner skin, and I don't know if that would be the deciding factor or anything. I mean, yeah, but I was very impressed. He's also, did you know, in 35 years of the Arnold, he's the first guy from the UK to ever win. He is.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right.
35 years. It took this long for them to get an Arnold winner. So congrats.
Yeah, you're right. Going back to talk about the thick skin, I mean, he's never been peeled. This is the first time he's really been peeled. He was holding a film of water, especially around his abdominal area at prejudging.
In the lat spread.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it, right? I mean, you saw the film of water right there. Maybe he wasn't flexing. Maybe he wasn't keeping his chest up, right? Because as competitors, we're all told to keep the chest up. So pretty much like, even from the front poses and the back poses, our lower back should be hurting so much because we're keeping our chest up to make our bodies more streamlined, right? Yeah. So, Steve Weinberger told me this from the very from before I even started bodybuilding. I was trying to pose in front of him. That lower back must hurt. So you're kind of at a tilt motion. Maybe he wasn't hitting his pose correctly, but you still saw a little bit of film of water. But then again, like I said, it's the first time the guy's been in this type of shape. So, who says he's not going to get a better, especially with Milos as his coach.
Well, a year ago when he did the Arnold, I was impressed, but I didn't see him as anybody who was going to be winning the Arnold or the Olympia anytime soon. Right. But he made with Milos, I think he put on like another, I don't know what it was, like 15 pounds between spring and by the time he came back for the Olympia. So, I don't know how much bigger he can get or needs to get, but wow, what an improvement. But I want to ask you one thing, because obviously we had a weird situation with the top four, because if they were going for, and this is, I know, here we go with conspiracy theories. If they're going for a more aesthetic look, why wasn't Andrew Jack second and Nick Walker third and then Ramy? You should have the two aesthetic physiques placing top two, and then after that, you would think more of the mass monsters, and it didn't shake out that way.
I think, Andrew's not small by any means. He's a really big guy. I mean, you put him in jogging pants or street clothes next to these guys, and he hovers over them. But when you see him pose, his waist is small, he could pose very well, right? I mean, he got the best poser award. But he's still, it's still like he's missing, some muscle somewhere. Like, the eye test just tells you that there's kind of like some spaces that he needs to add muscle. Could he add it at his age? I don't know. I mean, he's a little bit older, but I think that's the thing with Andrew. Andrew was just fuller. And I know it's crazy to say that because he's a huge human being, but if he was just fuller in some places, I mean, he would probably be the dominant bodybuilder at this point.
I mean, when I saw him, I've only seen him a couple times before that. I saw his pro debut in Texas. I saw him at the Olympia. He was fuller and his condition wasn't as good. This time, I think he gave up a little bit of fullness and the condition was much better than I've ever seen it. So maybe they just need to figure it out, Chris and him, just get that balance, because this was the first prep that he did with Chris, I believe. Yeah.
Yes,
so
yes,
yeah, they learned a lot about his body, I'm sure. And Jose Singh next to me, he had Andrew winning the show. Aceto's behind me over here. Of course, he has Andrew winning the show, and I
had him as well. I prejudged him ahead of him as well.
It was a top three that I honestly think any three of those guys could have won, and I wouldn't have been like, what? They were all amazing. They were all worthy champions.
And the thing with Nick is Nick looked a little bit more streamlined. I mean, I guess when you hear so much that his legs came down, you start looking at his legs, right? You're like, oh shit, did they really come down? So that kind of stayed in my mind. Yeah, a little bit much, especially when you keep hearing it, right? Yeah, but when you keep hearing it, it's like, oh my god, let me keep focusing on his legs. Nick is Nick, right? Nick is gonna come in with a whole bunch of muscle. He's gonna get in shape, and he's getting more streamlined over the last couple of years, which was, his thing was being blocky. It's not blocky anymore on some poses. He wins from the front. He looks blocky, especially with his most muscular. I think he has to change that most muscular pose of his.
The hand on the hip one that he does.
Yeah, no, not even that one. The one that he's just standing still.
Yeah.
Right, that one. I think he needs to change it and work on that one because that's his signature pose that he shows everybody, and he looks a little bit blocky there. But Nick is always going to be in the running because of his conditioning and his size. It is what it is, you know.
So before we get to, you have some questions from viewers, but Ramy, this was we were all curious to see, could he look a lot better than he did at the Olympia? It's 10 weeks. He's getting stem cells. Right. Are they going to miraculously cure him? He did look a lot better than the Olympia. I think he looked better at this Arnold than he did when he won his second Olympia in 2021.
Yeah.
Or at least as good, but I think he looked a little better. I thought he brought a great package. The conspiracy, the Ramy fans they're crying bullshit. He never got put in the middle. They shoved him off to the side again. It's like they don't like him anymore. I'm hearing the weirdest things. Trigilli did a video. First, I was hearing it from other people, and then Trigilli did a video saying the judges don't like him because he's getting stem cells. I'm like, what? That's like what the judges don't like you because you go see a chiropractor? Come on. No. But like stem cell treatments are cheating or something. It's a medical procedure. It's not like
a lot more cheating in bodybuilding than stem cells.
Yeah, thank you. So give me your impressions of Ramy. Do you think he's capable of? Did you see improvement in those areas that we're worried about? The lower lats particularly were an issue at the Olympia. The tricep was flattened out. One of his calf heads was like flattened out, gone. How much improvement did you see in those areas?
A lot. I saw a lot. Ramy came out with a video saying that he wasn't going into the Arnold to win the Arnold. He was going into the Arnold to practice. Now, me knowing Chad Nichols.
Practice?
And following Chad Nichols since I started bodybuilding when he was prepping his first client, Kim Chebesky, right?
Yeah, we married.
Yeah, they were married. I mean, they're married, right? They have kids. Chad's not gonna put anybody into a show to practice. Right. So I knew Ramy was coming in with a different look. You know what? And I do agree with you. I think Ramy's look was the way almost very close to the way when he won the second Olympia, same type of look. Yeah, man. I mean, let's be honest with if Ramy brings that, and he was probably I don't want to say penalized or punished, but that's the reason why they probably didn't put him in the middle because of his performance at the Olympia. I don't know. I mean, it could be that. It doesn't make sense because I'm a bodybuilder and I've been judged many times, and I'm not one to talk about politics and stuff like that. But I think I think Ramy's going to be a force at the Olympia. But who has better shape, Samson or Ramy?
No, I mean, Ramy has never been praised for his shape. That's never been his calling card. It's always been he's got a good structure. He's got a small waist. He's got wide clavicles. And he's so much mass, obviously. The couple things that I thought were distracting on him, and I don't know if they bothered you. Shoulders looked a little squared off when he was in the front, like a square shape to them. I'm not accusing him of anything. I don't know what the hell he does or doesn't do. So Ramy fans, relax, please. Yeah. Enough with the death threats. I'm just kidding.
I'm a Ramy fan, right?
I am a Ramy fan. I thought he looked fantastic. I really like the guy a lot.
He's a great human being. That's what I love about him.
Exactly. So nice. He's a family man. And his quads seemed like they were even bigger than ever or something. I don't know. They were like this. I think I asked him, do you ever stop training quads? And he's like, no. I'm like, maybe you should, dude. I mean,
the dentures were gone from the stem cells. That was for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they managed to do that. The dents were gone. But the legs were they were
bigger.
I'm a fan of big legs, man. I've loved Tom Platz, was like one of my idols. So Paul DeMeo. So for me to say someone's legs were too big, it's really saying something. But I thought they were so big, they were kind of distracting.
Distracting, yeah. I agree. I agree with you.
Like I couldn't take my eyes off them. I'm like, what the is that real? It looked like two giant, like Zeppelin balloons or something. It was nuts.
Yeah, and as big as he is with those type of quads, it is distracting and takes away from the rest of his physique. I've always saw Ramy look better when he was a little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter. He has enough size. You don't need to bring him in at 300 pounds, But I mean, if you have that type of muscle maturity, it's hard. It's also very difficult to burn muscle, especially during contest prep when you're taking a lot of stuff that helps you preserve muscle and to a point it helps you even build muscle when you're on contest prep,
I never had a problem losing muscle on prep, and I wasn't trying to lose muscle in prep. But yeah, I think Chad said he was 308. He brought him in at 308.
Yeah,
I mean,
he looked it. He
but
definitely
I
looked it.
agree with you. I think like first New York Pro, he was like 280, 285. And that's when everyone was like, oh my God, this guy is awesome. And when he came in lighter, I think when he took second at the Olympia before it was 2017, I think it was. I think that's when he was a little lighter too. So I don't know. They're not going to listen. Chad and Ramy aren't going to listen to me or you. So, but
I think they definitely have to bring him in tighter, especially if Samson is getting better, because Samson's not afraid of showing his physique. So he's not like, somebody who disappears for 3 months and it shows on stage. He has an Instagram, he has social media, and he shows his physique a lot. I mean, it's easy to keep your eye on him and see what he's doing. Chad to me is one of the Mount Everest coaches. He's on there and he knows what he's doing, and I'm sure Ramy's gonna be back for though. That's for sure, guys. Ramy's gonna be back at though.
Yeah, I mean, I can at least say this about Ramy is, if in the back of my mind, I thought after last Olympia, this guy's done. He needs to hang it up and, spend time with your family, do business stuff. He doesn't ever need to compete again. He's a superstar in Egypt. They love him over there. He's never going to be worried about sponsorships or business opportunities. They're always going to be there for him. But now I could say, yeah, I think he can keep going. His body's not as thrashed and done as I thought it was. So
no, it looked brand new.
Yeah, so let's just finish up with two guys from your area. New Jersey's kind of your area. It's close enough. it's like over the bridge. Sean Clarita, 212 Olympia champion, twice Olympic champion, fifth place at 180 pounds, and he was only 3 points away Friday night from Ramy, who was 308. So do the math on that. I thought condition-wise, everything, he was up 4 pounds from the Olympia body weight, which at 5 foot or 5'1", that's like Andrew Jack putting on 20 pounds. Yeah. And I thought the condition was, for me, as good or if not better than the Olympia, which is crazy. What'd you think of Clarita, the giant killer?
I mean, I know Sean, he was 113 pounds. I love Sean. Sean is my guy. I was rooting for him. I had him, out of favoritism, I had him third, in my pre-Arnold review. But out of favoritism, but I mean, he finished fifth, so I wasn't too far away, right? He bought the package. We know Sean's never out of shape. We know Sean's gonna keep getting bigger, keep getting harder. I know. How much more muscle can you put on that frame? Well, guys, he puts on more muscle every single year.
Again. Yeah. I mean, even
every single. I mean, he's the mini Ronnie Coleman. I mean, he's a Ronnie Coleman in the 212 division. Yeah, man, I was extreme. I mean, look at the smile on my face, man. I was extremely happy with Sean.
Yeah, he was the guy I wanted to win. It's nothing against the other guy. I wanted him to win because I loved those movies like Rocky and Rudy and all those sport where the team comes back from against all odds, or this fighter comes. I love the underdog movies where the underdog wins the big game or fight or something at the end. So that would have been just a great story. Let's wrap it up with, originally from New York City and now in New Jersey, Akim Williams. I thought he really redeemed himself. Muscle Meds athlete. Muscle Meds sponsors this program. I thought he looked much, much better than Olympia. It was a very, very tough top five. Getting past any of those guys would have been insanely. I would be proud of myself if I could beat any of those guys. But he did himself proud. I thought he pulled off a much, much better look than we've seen from Akim in a long time.
I mean, a lot of people forget that Akim finished sixth in Olympia a few years ago. Akim is a threat. And he hung with those guys too, finishing sixth. Akim is a threat because the amount of muscle that he has, and it's not just muscle, it's muscle maturity from all the heavy weight that he lifts until this day, from the very beginning to this day. He switched coaches after the Olympia. That made a very big impact in how he looked. He came in more streamlined himself, in a different way than Nick, but more streamlined and a little smaller but tighter. And that's what Akim needs to do. Akim has enough muscle. If he comes in tighter, he comes in peeled, he get his back in, he gets glutes in, he's going to be a threat at any single show. But Akim's problem has always been his conditioning. But hopefully he'll stick to the coach that he hired after the Olympia. It did him well, and let's see what Akim's future is. But another one that's a friend of mine, and I'm always rooting for him.
Do you know who coached him for the Arnold?
Yeah, I know
He
exactly who
won't.
it is.
He won't. I don't know why they won't let us say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, and that's the reason why I won't say it out of respect.
I won't either. But
Um,
it's odd. I mean, I don't know why they
yeah,
don't want it out there. It's just
yeah, I
a
mean, even in his posts and stuff like that. So out of respect, I won't say it, but it is a Mount Everest coach.
That's it's one of the very best guys.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's our Arnold Classic discussion. Now you've got some really good questions from some viewers here, so let's get to that. Fact. What do we got?
All right, so the first question I got was, "Hey, Fact, is there a difference of eating solid food or drinking it, such as blending your food?" I guess they're talking about protein shakes and blending your food.
Yeah, because that's a trend now. Where Hunter Labrada
Yeah.
was, and a lot of guys I've seen a couple of they put all the chicken and the rice in the blend. Oh, gross! I think it's gross, but that's me.
I think it's
So
gross.
I got to hear it. What do you think?
I think it's a bigger trend now. I mean, it's always been a trend, right? I mean, you go back 30 years in the sport, but it's definitely a bigger trend now. Because Hunter, right? Hunter Hunter Labrada is known for blending his food. Having he said he since he started really bodybuilding, 8-9 years ago, through his meals have always been whey shakes, right? Whey isolate or whatever, Mr. Lee Labrada makes.
Lean body, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, lean body. Yeah, I mean, but so here's my thing. One, he knows that's not the right way of eating. That's why he's changing it. That's one. That's coming from him, coming from Hunter Labrada. Myself, from my experience and being in the sport for 33 years, there's a different load when you drink your food rather than when you eat solid food. Now, you're gonna have a whole bunch of these super nutritionists, doctors and scientists, and well, it's the same thing because it's still still protein, carbohydrates, and fats. It's still going through your body. It is. You're right. But the consumption is the same as far as micronutrients, but the load is different. Water, liquid comes out of your body a lot faster than solid food does. And you see it. I mean, I'm not a guy sitting here telling you there's a big difference and not having experience. I've been doing this for 33 years. And I know a lot of guys that don't like to eat. They want to be bodybuilders. And Ron, eating is a job.
Yeah.
But there is a big difference. I mean, can you become a bodybuilder and by drinking your meals and having your shakes? Well, Hunter did, and a lot of other people have, but it's not the right way of doing it. And that's the reason why Hunter is changing it this year. No, I don't. There is to answer the question. The question is there a difference? Yes, there is a big difference. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, first I want to say I have this Ronnie Coleman phrase that I've altered to fit this discussion because I say this a lot. Because Ronnie used to say, everybody want to be a bodybuilder. Nobody want to lift no heavy ass weights. That's wrong. Everybody wants to lift heavy ass weights. Nobody wants to eat 6 times a day. It sucks. Every day of your life, every 2 hours while you're awake, you got to eat. It's a grind. But what I read years ago about this from, I can't remember which, it was a nutrition expert in the industry back when I used to write for TMAG, T Nation Testosterone, whatever it was called at the time. And he said, the one thing about eating that's different, eating your food rather than drinking it, is like in your saliva, while you're chewing the food, all these digestive enzymes, as amylase, I don't know what enzymes, they're released, that they're not released if you're just slugging food down in a shake. So the digestion is not going to be as complete. So I don't know if that's true, but in Hunter's case, the condition has been an issue with him. And I don't know the scientific reason. I don't know who does. Maybe solid food would have made the difference if it's only like a difference of 5% condition, but you're trying to win the Mr. Olympia. 5% of condition being on or off is a massive difference.
Yeah. I see the difference more in dieting, just working with a lot of clients. I mean, I've worked with over 5,000 clients over the years. And I see the difference. I see guys that, well, I don't like to eat. I want to have this. All right, let's try to do this, but once we start dieting, the weight comes off a lot more. They tend to sweat on stage by not adding solid meals and taking out the shake the last couple of weeks. And that's from my experience. Again, it's from my 30 semi years of experience. And again, Hunter knows it's not the right thing, and that's the reason why he's changing.
I remember Hani Rambod. I worked with him for over 10 years on his MD column, and one thing that came up many times was shakes versus food. And he used to I think he would cut shakes out of all his athletes' programs at at like 6 or 8 weeks out from a show. No more shakes, only solid food from here on. So, Hani's off on that Mount Rushmore of awesome coaches. If he's not the lead head on the mountain, I don't know who is at this point.
I kept saying Mount Everest. I don't know why. Mount Rushmore.
Same shit. So what do we got? What do we got up there? We only got 4 spots if it's going to conform to the Mount Rushmore. So we'll go Hani, we'll go Aceto, we'll go Chad. Right now, who gets the 4th spot?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to add
is
more
it Farah?
Who? I mean, I would have to add more heads on there.
Yeah, I mean, you've done very well. Farah's done very well. George Farah. There's a few. Jansen's really good. He's newer, but yeah, we need like 7 heads on the mountain. Anyway.
I mean, Neil. You can't count
Hill's
Neil
good.
out.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would. Yeah, I mean, if you had to ask me, my guy is Chris. My guy's Chris.
Mm-hmm.
My guy's Chris. My guy's Chris ever since I read the championship bodybuilding book.
25 years ago. Yeah,
people forget Chris was a good bodybuilder too. Laura Carvel was his wife. She was a very good bodybuilder. So my guy's Chris. Chad, of course, Chad. He's worked with everybody. Hani, he's worked with a lot of everybody. George, he's worked with a lot of people. I mean, I might sound conceited, but I have to put myself up there just because, I've turned a lot of people pro. So it's not like I work with genetically gifted bodybuilders. I work with a lot of bodybuilders that have turned pro, that have average to good genetics. But yeah, I mean, Neil, we'll have to add it'll be a multi Mount Rushmore.
It's and we'll close off on that note, but I always have an extra level of respect for coaches that can do amazing things with people with, I wouldn't say regular genetics. If you have regular genetics, you're never going to be doing shit in bodybuilding anyway. But let's just say just slightly above average genetics that don't compare to like the Phil Heaths and the Ronnies. That's a whole other level of humanity, a very, very, very elite level. But guys that can take people with lesser genetics and do something with them, that to me that's real skill. I mean, nothing against anybody, but those guys like Heath, of course, you have to be a good coach to get them to the Olympia level, but. There's some guys, I won't name names. I say my dog could probably prep that guy for the Olympia, and he'd still win. Oh man! All right, Fak. Enough coach discussion. Before we get in anymore, before you offend anybody, what is your next question you got for us?
All right. So my next question is a really good question. My next question is it safer to use Primo or Masterone as a base than test? For example, using 700 to 800 milligrams of Primo and Masterone as opposed to test, which is safer?
You tell me.
Okay, so when if you had to categorize test, Primo, Mass, and let's throw the most safest, PD in there, Anavar, equally, you would say that test is probably on the last on the list, right? Now, when you're running dosages of a base, let's talk between 500 to 800 to even to 1,000, because I know some coaches that run 1,000 milligrams of Primo. You're not taking into account the filtration rate of the actual PED. So the filtration rate, meaning the filtration rate of the kidneys that are being risen by the amount of protein, nitrogen retention, converting into mTOR that's going through the kidneys, right? So by what I mean, and I never talk technical, right? But because I try to be as simple. I try to speak as simple as I can.
Good.
So primobolan is going to be at a higher is going to use the kidneys at a higher filtration rate by lowering your GFR, which is the filtration rate of your kidneys, which is not a good thing because it's going to be a higher nitrogen retention on the amount of protein you're taking. Muscles are made out of what? Amino acids, protein/amino acids, and water. So no, it's not safer because some gear used at a higher level have different side effects than testosterone. Testosterone at high levels is going to raise high blood pressure. So are other steroids or PDs. Testosterone at high levels are going to shut you down. Well, I mean, other PDs are made from what? DHT, right? I mean, you have even the ones that are higher anabolic on an anabolic table, like a Primo, like a Masteron, and lower androgenic, than testosterone, but they still cause different side effects. So any type of base you are using, and I know this is like the new thing, right? Running Primo and running Mass, like this over the last couple of years. Well, this is my base. So again, it's not safer, because you're running gear, and different gear do different things. It could be a higher filtration rate on the kidney. It could be higher blood pressure. It could be, a higher androgenic side effects than testosterone, because there are a few of them that are higher. So yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, just because people want to reinvent the wheel by doing different things. If you're using test as a base, and you could use less of everything else, because test is the king of size, right? It's the second strongest hormone. Well, it's the second strongest hormone behind insulin. As far as, well, insulin being the strongest storage hormone, but it's the second strongest anabolic hormone. So I don't think it's a good idea to run Primo Masteron at such high levels myself.
Tell me if you heard this rumor. This is when the Middle Eastern guys, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it was 8 to 10 years ago, when they started really doing very well. Everyone's like, what are they doing? What are they doing over there at the Oxygen Gym? And I don't know what they do or don't do. Okay, I have no idea. But the rumor was that they were using Primo as a base. A lot. They would do like a gram of Primo a week instead of a gram of test. I don't know what the rationale was behind that, but I think that's what started people thinking, oh boy, well, those guys are killing it in bodybuilding now. They're winning everything. So we got to do whatever they're doing. So glad you cleared that up, because everything.
And it's the truth. That's what they were running. But again, there's side effects. And if you guys don't know, when it comes to your kidneys, you have 4 things you need to worry about. You need to worry about your creatinine levels. You need to worry about your GFR. You need to worry about your bun, and you need to worry about your C-system levels. But your GFR is the filtration rate of your kidney. So when that starts coming down, you could have a creatinine level normal of most of us as bodybuilders have a higher creatinine level. We're like 0.9, 1, even 1.3. Even some of us walk around at 1.5, 1.6 because of the amount of size that we have. That's very relevant to the amount of muscle that we carry. But once your filtration rate starts going down, into the 60s, into the 40s, that's when you start reaching, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 kidney disease. So yeah, you're right. That's what the guys in the Middle East were doing. But again, the side effects are still side effects, because each PD has different side effects.
You had kidney issues a few years back. What were the most alarming numbers that you ever saw in yours?
Mine personally were very high. My creatine. Well, I also had oh my God, what's the name of the muscle breakdown disease?
You had rhabdomyolysis?
Right, I had rhabdomyolysis. At the same time, my blood pressure was high. Listen, I was 5'5", 270, 280 for years. I mean, we all know that, and it wasn't like I was fat. I was always in shape, As a bodybuilder, I've been prescribed blood pressure medication for many years, right? So we don't want to take that one pill that's a blood pressure medication, but we take everything else. Yeah. We'll take Anavar, Andril, or Turinabol, but we won't add that blood pressure medication. Right. So that was my biggest issue. My blood pressure went really high. My bun got really high. My GFR was what saved me, because that never dropped below 80. But my creatine did get high. I mean, we were. I think we did a show, and it was high. It was up there, But it was also because I had, the muscle breakdown disease at the same time. I suffer from CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome. That alone in itself, I've had that for about 25 years, Ron. Now I've had to over control in the last couple of years, because I'm not at the pace I was as far as like running businesses and bodybuilding and everything else. But that also wasn't helping. But yeah, so that's the reason why I know about what gear, what gear affects creatine more, what gear affects, your GFR more, what increases your bun, your toxicity in your blood levels, which is your bun. So you have to just get your blood work done every 3 to 4 months to make sure you're healthy.
I'm glad you keep spreading that message, because as much as kidney problems can be horribly damaging to a person's health. I think so many guys out there still don't even really think about their kidneys ever. It's like, kidneys.
And here's the thing, because we see a lot of bodybuilders die or pass away from heart disease. But what a lot of people don't understand is when your kidneys start failing and your bun is now 100, 150, 200, and your creatine is high, that's what you're passing away from. Because stage 5 renal disease, once you reach 15, and your GFR and you need to go to dialysis, most people pass away from a heart attack because the body is in shock. The body, not dialysis, because some people don't even go to dialysis. They just toughen it out at home. And that's what a lot of the heart attacks are coming from. It's coming from stage 4 or 5 kidney disease. So
that's exactly what happened to Boston Lloyd. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And it happens it's happened to a few of them. I don't want to discuss, other people that passed away, but Boston was one of them. And it's happened to a few other guys that I know. I've seen the blood work, and their blood work wasn't great. People know, that I was probably the first coach to ever start asking my clients for blood work. And myself having my health issues a few years ago, I became a freaking expert. Like I could detect anything on the blood work and know what's going on. So yeah, the heart attacks and people passing away also has to do with the kidney failure.
I mean, that's a very responsible coach right there. So keep doing what you're doing, Fak. And we have one final question. What's that?
Okay, so I have 2 more, but let's go to number 4. Let's go to number. One of them was a training question, which we've discussed a couple of times.
Yeah.
Number 4 was, and this is another very important question: can you take meds for mental health and still bodybuild at a high level?
Wouldn't you be able to?
Yeah, I've been you've known me for a long time. I've always been an open book. I discuss everything in my life. I don't hold anything back. I myself have suffered from depression, anxiety. And people are gonna ask, well, why? You've done this, and this. Mental health is not something that you could say, well, I'm gonna change tomorrow. I'm gonna do this tomorrow. Stop being weak and doing this. Mental health is something that there's a chemical imbalance in your head. Especially when your whole life is perfect, right? I've lived a good life. I'm very satisfied. I'm very blessed, and I've lived a good life. My anxiety started developing around 2008. I have Klonopin medication. I have difficulty sleeping, which has been well documented forever. So I do have an Ambien prescription. I've been on Wellbutrin, which is a depressive medication, on and off. And I compete at a very high level. I think as bodybuilders, we look in the mirror and we think we're superheroes, right? And then society tells us that, you need to be stronger. You need to be stronger minded. You need to go for a run when you're depressed, and you need to do this. You need to do that.
Men in general, maybe it's changing now that they're trying to make us all less masculine. But I'm older. I'm even older than you. I'm a few years older than you, and it was always just suck it up, kid.
Mm-hmm.
Men were never supposed to show weakness. You don't cry. You don't complain. If you have problems, you keep it to yourself. And that's why men's suicide rates they're like 5 times higher than women. I don't know the exact. It's much higher than women, and it's been getting worse over the pandemic. I think, my gosh, I think we had like an epidemic of suicides in those years everyone was locked up. But you know what? I'm going back to that question. I wonder if he's referencing certain side effects from the medication that might impede like fat loss or muscle gain. Because I think antidepressants, aren't they? Do they make a lot of people gain weight?
Yeah. So there's antidepressants like Remeron. Remeron is one you take at nighttime. Remeron does make you gain weight. Wellbutrin is one that speeds up your metabolism. Wellbutrin is something that speeds you up. I'm not gonna say speeds up your metabolism, but it speeds you up. It gets you going. Usually you have to take something else with Wellbutrin. Lexapro, Prozac. They're also some of the medications do put on the weight, but me and you knowing the whole biochemistry of how the body works and eating and everything, training and everything else. If you're eating and you're training hard, you're not gonna put on the weight just because you're gonna put on the weight, right? It's not gonna slow down your metabolism. You're gonna put on the weight because the medication is gonna put you in a sleepy zone, in a cloudy zone, and you're gonna go and eat more. When you're depressed, you eat more. You're gonna sleep more, and that's how you're gonna gain the weight. So it doesn't have any it doesn't it's not gonna affect anything you're taking as far as PEDs, as far as PEDs versus the actual med. Your mind might be affected, and if you're taking something like a Paxil, like a Lexapro, like a Prozac, talk to your practitioner. Tell them, listen, I can't take this. I'm too cloudy. I can't focus. There's many medications out there, especially now. A few of them have been released over the last couple of years. So the side effects, no, it wouldn't contribute. If you did everything you had to do as a bodybuilder 24/7, it's not gonna stop you from bodybuilding at a high level.
Okay, cool. All right, and we do have one more question. Yes.
So the last question is training. Do you have to take every workout to failure?
That's a good question.
Myself, I can't train unless I take every workout to failure, right?
Yeah.
And last night was an example. I've been going I've been changing my workouts more. I need to get more into athletic shape. I lost my athleticism, I guess, over the I'm 49 and a half years old. I'm gonna be 50.
Yeah.
So I know I still have it inside me because when I do play sports, I'm still active and I can still move around even with the younger guys. But last night was a good example. I did chest, and I went to failure on every last set of each exercise. Now, I'm a huge believer in progressive overload. I'm a disciple of Mike Menzer. Dorian Yates I followed, strictly, very closely. Actually, the word "strictly" is a good word to use because he was the bodybuilder I followed the most. I cannot do progressive overload anymore. I haven't been on PED since May 2018, so I can't promise myself I'm going to go up every single week by rep or by weight. But as far as going to failure, I still do it. Now, do I think you have to go to failure every exercise or every workout? To me, yeah. So to me, if you don't push yourself to the highest output, and you leave the last set, right? Because each set is the working set until you get to the last set of the exercise, and that's when you go to failure. So to me, if you don't push the maximum output, how are you gonna get stronger and how are you gonna get bigger? I mean, if you leave, all right, I did 10 and I had 2 more in me, I'm gonna keep it in the bag. No, man, put it in there, and then next week you come back and you try to beat that number. So I'm really big on failure on the last set of each exercise.
I've heard, I know I should have had evidence to back this up, but there's studies that have been done that show you gain just as much mass, if not more, if you do leave like one or 2 reps left and don't take it to all the way to failure. Have you seen those?
I have. But to that, I'm going to say Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, Brett Warren, Johnny Jackson, myself.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing I struggle, I just don't know how any other way to train. I'm like you.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I don't go to failure, I just feel like, well, what am I doing? It's,
yeah.
I just don't feel like I really worked out. But, the argument against doing that would be it's tremendously stressful to your central nervous system, taking all those sets to failure. So maybe the compromise is just that one last set where you go. Everything else you could leave like a rep or 2 left that you could still get another rep or 2 and you don't do it. But the last one, that's where you go all out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's say we're squatting 5 plates, which is 495 pounds, my regular 45-pound bar. The first set is a warm-up set, right? 135 for 10, then 225 for 10, and then 315 for 10. None of them, of course, pushing yourself even close to failure. And then you might add a 25 in there, if you need to. And so let's say I do 4 or 5, and I'm trying to squat 495. I'll do 4 or 5 for maybe 6, maybe 7, as a warm up, because my last set is the most important set. My 315, 365, 405 is not my most important set. My last set is my most important set. That's where I'm going to grow the most and put the most amount of stress on my muscle to break it down. That way, when I rest and I eat, it'll grow. So when and this was my thing with Mike Menza. I trained with Mike Menza 2 summers and 2 winters. And me going out there, he was and Mike actually got more stricter as the years went on, right?
Frankie,
It was like 3 sets, and then finally it was like 1 set to failure, and finally it was just failure, right? So my thing with Mike is, and we went back and forth. I was a young kid, but I was very opinionated. Just coming from my educational background and everything else. I mean, people know my history. So I always argued with him. I'm like, listen, I'm squatting like 600 pounds. I can't do 2 sets. He goes, yes, you can. So we finally left it at, all right, so the warm-up sets are just warm-up sets for the last set, which is basically still progressive overload. But if you're strong on the actual exercise, bench, deadlift, squat, shoulder press, you cannot do 2 or 3 warm-up sets because you're going to get hurt. And again, my longevity has been 33 and a half years, and I've never once been injured. Never once.
What? That's crazy.
No, I have no injuries. None.
Unbelievable. I'm mad at you now, but I'm like, I can feel joint pain as I'm sitting here talking to you in certain areas. No, to that, I want to add that so I watched Dorian Yates train back April 1992. I was in California. He came out to guest Posley, Orange County, and then I filmed. I had a camera crew for that American Muscle show. We filmed him the Monday after. So the first exercise, I'm like, I got to see this because everyone's talking about this guy's back because he had just taken second to Lee Haney a few months before. So I'm like, well, let's see how hard he trains. First exercise was lat pull downs with a short straight bar, underhand grip. And the first couple sets, I'm like, this guy doesn't train that hard. I wasn't impressed at all because it was a 300-pound weight stack. I think he did 100 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds. I'm like, he looks like he could keep going. What I didn't realize is these are all none of these sets counted. These are all warm-up sets. Puts a 45 on with a pin. So that we got 345 on there now. That was a warm-up set. I'm like, fuck. Second one, it's another 45. So now we got almost 400 pounds on the weight stack, and that's the set. And he did the same thing with like underhand barbell row. That's what he did for like 3 more exercises. But he only took that last set to true failure and beyond. Everything else, he could have easily gotten, 2, 3, 4 reps. So
yeah, so what I tell people is don't work out before you work out, right? And by what I mean by that is a lot of people fatigue themselves before they actually get to the last set. So they're doing 12, 15, 20 sets. You know what? Listen. If I go bench press and at 135, if I start with the bar, I always start with the bar no matter what. So I start with the bar, then I put the 135. If that feels heavy, I'll do 2 sets with 135. If I go to 225 and that feels heavy, I got to warm up. I'm not gonna go to 315 without warming up, and that's the reason why I haven't been injured. So yeah, the last set is the failure. So when I tell people don't work out before you actually work out, they're fatiguing their muscles before the last set. If this was all about rushing blood into your, and that's another study I've seen, the amount of blood you rush into your muscles by putting a cuff on your arm or something like that is the same amount of blood your body would produce if you were going to failure. But the problem is you're not breaking down muscle. You cannot build muscle unless you break down muscle. So you have to break down muscle through training. You can't cuff your arms, tie your legs, put a ribbon around your nose. None of that's going to matter unless you break down muscle.
Yeah. I think it's katsu training with the bands.
Yeah.
When I've seen people do that, to me, they always remind me like a junkie about to shoot up or something. They tie off the arm. But man, wow. So almost 50 years old, 270 pounds for years, and you never had an injury. That is unbelievable. God bless.
I have, sometimes my elbows start hurting me every once in a while when I'm warming up and do something, but no injuries. None.
Everyone I know, because I'm going to say our age, I'm going to include you in that, even though I'm a couple years old. Everyone I know our age has torn something. A lot of them have had knee surgeries, shoulder surgeries, lower back. Oh my goodness, wow. So listen to fat guys, warm up. Take a lot of time warming up. I think if I could go back and if I could only change one thing about the way I trained all those years, I would have warmed up a lot more. I was like way too eager to get into the heavy weights. And kind of like you said, don't work out before you work out. I had this stupid idea that if I spend too much energy warming up, I won't be strong. I won't be as strong. So say it was like flat dumbbells or something. Say like my goal was like 140s for 6 to 8 reps. So I would do like 50s for like 5 reps.
Right.
That's it. Like, 70s for like 4 reps. Hundreds for like 2 reps. I'm like, all right, I'm good to go. And now I wonder why I need a new shoulder. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I always did. I always did 10 reps as my warm up. You know, until it started getting a little bit heavier. Depending, you know, around I've squatted 700 pounds. I've deadlifted close to 800 pounds. I've bench pressed 500 pounds for 15 reps. You know, Dominic was there, Cardone. He was 14 years old the first time he came to the gym and trained with me, and I did 495 for like 15 reps. So I'm not just spitting out numbers. I have a lot of people I've trained with, a lot of pros. You know, and they could, you know, they know I've done that type of weight. But no, yeah, I mean, warming up is very important. You know, I also wanted to add this. You know, some people see well Jay Cutler train and Phil Heath train, and you know, they're not pushing that type of weight. But what they are pushing is enough weight that's making them grow, you know, and they're, you know, they're going to failure, you know, and with their own weight. So weight is relevant to each individual. You know, you don't have to be not some of the strongest bodybuilders in the world. Let's say Johnny Jackson, you know, for his weight, he was stronger pound for pound than Ronnie Coleman was, right? You know, but Ronnie Coleman was better. So it's not the stronger you are, the better bodybuilder you're gonna be. But I've never seen one bodybuilder that's not really strong. That's not a good bodybuilder.
I suppose. I have actually, but you wouldn't. They didn't get that far. They were all, you know, local regional guys that were super. I remember a guy I competed against. I'm not going to say his name, but we were backstage at a show years ago, and he was a power lifter, also competitive power. He held a couple records. And he's talking about he did a 900-pound squat or something, and I'm like, he had sweatpants on. I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see this guy's legs. And we all start pumping up. I'm like, my legs are a lot bigger than his, and I've never squatted more than 500 pounds in my life. But, yeah, I mean, but I was doing reps, and I'm doing.
Look at Stan Effigen. I mean, Stan was a huge. You know, Larry Wheels. Look at how strong Larry Wheels is. He was a huge powerlifter too, like Stan. You know, but they did. You know, Stan is a pro, of course. But they weren't great bodybuilders per se, because you know it also takes genetics. It's not strength is a lot of ligament, tendon strength. You know, it also has to do with the muscle. Not too many guys that are very round, you know, have you know. Listen, I know there was an argument between black bodybuilders and white bodybuilders, which I think is incredibly stupid. Yeah, no, I think it's incredibly stupid, by the way. You know, because if we talk about the numbers, you know, we could start naming guys. The whole argument wouldn't even make sense. You know, so I won't even get into that. But it's just, you know, genetics, like you always say, Ron, right? You need a certain amount of genetics to be great, and that's a fact.
Yeah. Phil Heath, man, my God.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly that people, just because he wasn't using the standard barbell bench press. If you watch his training, you know, maybe he was using a machine like a hammer strength, but he had like 5 or 6 plates on there. You know, don't tell me that's not a strong guy. That's a very strong guy. Come on. Anyway, man, this has been a great episode. A lot of good info you imparted to the viewers out there. So thank you, Fak, as always. And yeah, it's back to the Arnold. I'm very happy for Samson. I'm curious to see how well he can do at the Olympia this year. I mean, I'm a fan of all the guys. I respect them all, but he's got a great story. I'd love to see him win the Olympia. I'd love to. There's a few guys who I'd just be like over the moon if they won the Olympia. But
you know what's great, Ron? Bodybuilding is fun again.
It is, yeah.
It's getting competitive again.
Was it like 2 years ago? Everyone's like saying open bodybuilding is going to go away. It's dying. Like 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, a lot of people were saying that. They're like, classic's going to take over. Nobody wants open bodybuilding is going away. There's no great people anymore. Yeah, because we weren't getting. There was a little gap. There was a little gap, but we weren't getting a lot of awesome new talent. Well,
let's be honest. Who is the biggest name in competition right now?
Bumstead.
Of course, 100%. You know, he is the biggest name. I mean, I've talked to lawyers. I've talked to accountants. I've talked to waitresses, waiters. I've talked to all types of people, and people always ask me, "Do you know Chris Bumstead?" And I'm like, "How the hell?" You know, they all know who he is.
Yeah, and I wish people would. I know it's just clickbait shit, but everyone wants him to go open. I'm like, we leave the guy alone. Leave him alone. He looks freaking perfect.
No, but he said it though.
Would he look better at 280 than he does at 240? Really?
No, but he said it. He goes. Everybody wants me to go. And people ask me about open. I'm like, I'm pushing myself as hard as I can right now to make this weight. And people don't realize that. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna take an extra 500 milligrams of test. I'm gonna take an extra 2 Anadryls or Anadryl per day. It doesn't work that way. The guy's pushing himself to the fucking max, and he looks incredible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, and when I talk to young guys, they don't ever ask me, hey, do you know Big Ramy? Do you know this guy? That's always. Have you ever met Chris Bumstead? That's all. They're all obsessed. There was a kid at my gym. He got the exact same tattoo. Like he had it duplicated exactly the same one. I think it's a tiger that Bumstead has on one of his forearms. That's a real fan right there.
That's a real fan.
Yeah. So that's it, man. Thank you, Fakhri Mubarak, everybody. Another awesome episode of Fak Attack. And yeah, follow him on Instagram at
Fakhri Mubarak forever IFBB Pro.
Yeah, we tag you on all that stuff. Of course, we appreciate you. We appreciate you so much doing the show, Fak. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to it. Hit your notification bell. That's in one of those corners too. And you'll know when we have awesome new content coming out. And we'll see you right here again next time on Fak Attack.
Brought to you by Musclemeds. Musclemeds is the creator of Carnivore Pure Beef Protein Isolate. Beef builds muscle, and Carnivore is the world's #1 selling beef protein.
Hey, did you like that video? Smash that like button, subscribe to MD, and please comment down below. Thanks for watching.